Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. Today we are doing something a little bit weird and different so we're drawing Black Cat, but I'm doing a 2099 design of Black Cat, which there's a few different ones of those, but I'm not really using any of them. I'm sort of looking at them and trying to sort of maybe make something a little bit better, in my opinion at least, because so obviously today we're going to be talking about design stuff, as you might be able to guess. So one of the things, whenever I wrote this down as an idea for something to do, I initially just thought to myself, oh, I'll just do the 2099 Black Cat like from Edge of Time. But then I remembered that that design has a straight cleave all the way down the middle, so that's probably not YouTube safe. Well, not even that it's not YouTube safe, but that it's just maybe gonna get me age restricted, so I'm gonna avoid that problem. And then I looked at some of the other more modern designs, and Jesus, I thought those were terrible. So I'm trying to do something a little bit different here, in that I'm going to try and cobble together my own design sort of out of the bits and pieces that I kind of like from those designs. But we'll see what I can manage, because it's a very different thing to try and fully redesign a character in a way that sort of fits a different idea. Because like the thing is with the 2099 designs, oftentimes they are rather different to the normal designs. But the problem that I've been having, I think, with a lot of the Black Cat ones is that it's generally not that different. Not even that it's not that different, but they're not interestingly different. I mean, for example, the Edge of Time one goes out of its way to not be that different at all. It's just more revealing. And this is the sort of thing, is that they're largely not super different. So I'm gonna try and do something which is a little bit weird and different here at the very least. It's not crazy different, but it's a little different. So I suppose without further ado, I'll roll the intro and then I'll show you what I mean. So yeah. So this is what I have. So obviously I'm going to be talking a little bit about posing here as well, because this is a bit of a sort of a jump pose, which I thought might make things look a little bit more interesting. So, first things first. To me, so whenever it comes to design, the way that I sort of try to think about it, especially in a case of redesign, I try to think of, well, what are the essential parts that can't really change that much? So with Spider-Man 2099, what they do is the color scheme. So when it comes to Black Cat, there's a certain problem of you sort of need her to look distinct enough from Catwoman, and the thing that does that is the fur, the white fur and the white hair. So that sort of needs to stay in some respect. So my thought process is this. I kept the fur color. I might do something else with it. I don't know. I'm going to inject maybe a little bit more white into the design, because typically I don't normally do that. So I'll maybe include some white accenting and stuff like that as part of the design here, and we'll see what I can do. We'll see what I manage. So there's bits here, like I decided with the arm and leg fur, I thought it might look interesting, because this is something which is from the Edge of Time design, but they do a very weird choice with it, of where, so what I've decided is I'm going to include this sort of like white smoke, which will be coming off of it. And the white smoke will sort of give you the impression of the fur, while not necessarily just being the same thing. So that's sort of what I'm trying to do here, where it gives you the impression of the thing while not just being the thing. So there's elements of obviously non-2099 Black Cat designs which I've incorporated in here as well. For example, this sort of like kind of upper neck piece. That's a thing which you see in some of the more modern designs. I'm not huge on it, but I think it maybe fits more with this, especially given that I've given her a sort of full mask, is what I've given her here. Even though it actually, ironically, I would say covers less of the face. It's a full mask in that it sort of, it goes from the neck, from the bottom of the neck up, and then that kind of covers around the back of the head like that, so the hair that's coming out is coming out from the top, meaning that her hair is actually longer than it appears. It's just being cut off by the actual mask. But the hair would still fall over that, so that's the thing. I was thinking of maybe making her hair a different color, but I don't really think that that would work. I think it still needs to be white in order to give you the impression. So I might make her skin a different color. I might change that because that's something which I can change without losing anything. And again, I mean, part of the problem here is that she's called Black Cat, so the costume still needs to have a lot of black in it. But I might try and incorporate more of the white in because the white is an element which isn't in a huge amount of the older design, and bizarrely in the Edge of Time design they sort of do away with most of the white. It's all really in her hair. And so what I mentioned before about them making a weird choice with the smoke thing is that they put it on like her shoulders. They don't put it in the normal fur locations. So I feel like maybe putting it in the normal fur locations makes it less unique, but I feel like that sort of is necessary here. So I kept the fur color. And I feel like there's maybe something I have to do with it to make it look more interesting or distinct or something, but yeah, I kept the fur color. Maybe I'll change it to be a different kind of fur or something like that, but I think it still needs to be there for the sake of evoking the design. Like 2099 Spider-Man evokes the Spider-Man design by having the color scheme, but just flipped. Of where it's predominantly blue. Well, it's supposed to be black, but for the sake of argument here, I'll call it blue. Well, it's predominantly blue and with red accenting. And then it still sort of has the eye shape, which is even sort of what I've done here with the mask, of where it still sort of has the shape of the domino mask that she has before, but it's, you know, more open. And the thing which I've done here, which is very subtle here, is that I have given her cat eyes, which I will apply like a soft green glow to, because I think that might look more interesting. So I feel like maybe I should incorporate some sort of bits of blue in this, because blue is sort of speaking to me here, and I don't know if it's just because a lot of what I'm looking at here in terms of my reference is blue. Even the more modern sort of designs still have like kind of bluey lights on them. I don't think a stealth suit should have lights on it, so I'm not going to do that. But I might incorporate little bits of blue, because the smoke obviously maybe has to have some level of a glow to it. But the idea would be, in my mind at least, the idea would be that whenever she's running, that would create effectively the smoke screen of where it'd be kind of hard to see, hard to follow her exactly whenever she's moving because of the smoke. Or, for example, she could put her hand over her face and then the smoke would block her face. Something like that. It's not the most convenient thing in the world, but you know, it works. And then the cat eyes and stuff like that. I would think she'd also maybe have like pointed teeth. That is also the thing from the Edge of Time design, is she does have pointed teeth in that. It's almost hard to notice, but it is there. But I have stolen that particular element. Yeah, what else is there? I've made the claws a little bit more pointed, and they start at the base of the finger. So that's a slight difference there. The idea would be that certain elements of this design are built for quick change. For example, the heels. The idea would be that they can retract in and out, so that sort of, again, for the sake of quick change in and out of the costume, she could literally just slap something on over, and then that way you change the shape of the shoe, and then suddenly it starts looking a lot different very quickly. Take off the mask, sort of things, and then quick change is a lot easier here. That's part of the thought, anyways, of what I was doing. Yeah. What else did I need to touch on? I needed to maybe mention a little bit of the hair. I touched on the hair. The mask's a thing, the eyes, the gloves. Yeah, I might incorporate more white accents through the costume just to sort of maybe make it look a little bit more different, because, I mean, there's more red accents in the Spider-Man design than there needs to be. They also sort of kind of have a glow to them, but that's more of a Spider-Verse thing. So I think the major changes that I'm sort of maybe going to make are, I'm going to change her skin tone. I'll maybe give her a slightly darker skin tone. She'll have the green glowing eyes, because you could maybe infer some sort of genetic mutation sort of thing. Maybe some future science stuff is going on here. And yeah, the thought process here is that maybe this obviously isn't supposed to be the same Black Cat, which is a questionable decision they made in Edge of Time of where she's a clone, which, yeah, as I say, is an unusual and somewhat questionable decision. Here my thought process will be that this is a different person who's just using the sort of the carrying on the sort of mantle, which is a sort of common thing in stories, especially when it comes to thieves. You see that very often in thieves in stories, that they'll maybe pick up the same mantle. The idea being that, oh well, this particular, they're not the same person, but it's the same MO. So that's the sort of idea here. At the very least, this isn't the same person. So maybe I'll include some sort of impressions to say that maybe the hair is dyed white. That might be interesting. If maybe there's like a soft, like you can maybe see the roots a little bit, and they're a slightly different color. Something like that maybe. That might work. That'd be interesting. We'll see what I do about that. So yeah, that's all color stuff, anyways. But yeah, so a lot of this is obviously going to come into colors later. But yeah, the sort of details here of these sort of like padded bits along the shoulders and then along the sides, and then these extra little seams. I didn't want to over design it, which is a very big risk whenever you're doing, especially something more futuristic. It's very easy to over design these things. Try to not do that. So I feel like I've come up with a design which is still very clearly Black Cat, but looks futuristic enough that you can buy it as being $20.99. It's not super futuristic, but I feel like it's futuristic enough. Yeah, a lot of stuff that I'll have to talk about is color related, so that's obviously later on in this whole process. But yeah, I might maybe change some stuff with the fur. I might make it look a little bit different so that maybe it like curls out. Maybe that's something that I could do to make it interesting. Have it like curl out in like really like over the top ways so that it looks a lot bigger. Maybe changes her silhouette a little bit. Maybe. I suppose the silhouette doesn't change. Like if you compare it to Spider-Man 2099, his silhouette is still the same. Typically the silhouettes don't change. So Spider-Man silhouette doesn't change. Even like Venom 2099, Doom 20... Yeah, none of those silhouettes change. So maybe, yeah, maybe the silhouette should remain the same. So, yeah. Okay, I think I'm good to begin. I'll probably explain more of my sort of design changes here or there whenever I get into the colors, because colors are obviously going to be a big part of this. So yeah, anyways, I'll begin doing these details and then be back to do the colors. So yeah. Okay, provided I didn't forget to do anything, that is our details done. Meaning now is time for the colors. And like I mentioned before, there's a few things which I probably should mention. So, like I sort of touched on at the beginning, I want to intersperse a little bit more white into the color scheme of the design so as to make it feel a little bit more distinct. And I might incorporate some blue or something like that. I think I might make the background purple. I'm not really sure if I'll add maybe like some sort of streaks or something to it, maybe, I don't know, something going on in the background just so that it looks a little bit more different, because I don't just want it to be a solid color. So, right, there's that element. Oh yeah, there was a thing which I wanted to add. So this was a thought which I actually had while I was going. This is a thing which is in the what do you call it design, the sort of circular element is part of the god, as soon as my brain catches up with me, the Edge of Time design. And so my thought process here is that, so this is something from Punisher 2099 that I'm about to bring up here, of where in that he has some sort of thing where it can obscure his face, because obviously there's all the different cameras everywhere, it's the future, all that stuff, so there's cameras everywhere. So the idea is it's a little bit difficult to maintain a secret identity if your face is in any way showing, and because her face is very much showing here, I thought it might be interesting that as part of the sort of cat color that there's some sort of thing of where whenever that is visible on cameras it sort of obscures the face somehow. It creates like a glare or something which obscures the face, some sort of interesting element there. So I detailed in the smoke because I'll just color it in white and then I'll go over it with a paintbrush afterwards and sort of come back through it like that, because there's sometimes whenever it's easier to start doing something and then reduce inwards. That's what I did with the hair and the fur. I decided to make the fur color bigger, just so that it basically like sits over the whole shoulders. Basically, I think that looks a little bit more interesting. That's a way of making the fur look a little different. Is that the fur is very big, so that's maybe a different look there. You can't even see this other shoulder, and yeah, it's obviously like it drapes over the whole shoulders, so it looks very distinct in that sense. So yeah, I decided, yeah, so when it comes to the colors and stuff like that, I'm gonna maybe try and incorporate some sort of a blue element here. I'll have like maybe a blue glare off of this part of the color, some sort of like lens flare or something coming off of that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I want to try and incorporate a tiny bit of blue in little parts. I might put. I want to avoid putting on lights because this is still supposed to be. Again, it's supposed to be stealthy at the end of the day. So I might maybe put like a heated blue piece on the tops of the fingers, maybe. So the idea being that they can like cut through stuff. That the claws can maybe cut through stuff in that way, and maybe they have like a little tiny blue piece at the top of them, or maybe they're just entirely blue, and the idea is that the claws can sort of work more like that. But those just being like tiny little blue highlights. And like I mentioned, I might introduce maybe like some roots or something like that. There's a little bit of color in the roots somewhere that maybe it's not necessarily naturally white hair that she's got, or maybe it is naturally white. Hell, I don't know. Because my other thought was maybe to do like the tips are a little bit have a bit of a highlight going through them. Maybe, I'm not sure. I think I might just make it white, just pure white. Just leave it as is. Because it'll be the same with the fur. The fur still has to be white. The hair is still going to be predominantly white. I was just thinking of maybe adding in that element of where the tips or the roots are still a little bit visible. As being a different color, so that would maybe signal to you that the hair is dyed. But yeah, I'm not sure. I might not do that. I don't think it's necessary. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily important. Yeah. So yeah, the claws being blue. Is it and a little bit of blue on the collar? Is it the only blue that I'd be incorporating? I'm probably going to have a very blue gradient map again, so that it sort of emphasizes those elements. Just trying to think of some way to make that background look more interesting, because yeah, I'm probably going to go for like a purpley color for the background. I'll just inlay it now. I'll just put it in now because I don't know what else to do for the time being. So make it like a purpley color like this, maybe something like that. Then put it about there. Put it about there, then just dump it in like that. It's very dark. I should actually maybe make it a little brighter than that, just so I can see what I'm doing as I'm going. So yeah, I'll obviously have to use that for whenever I'm doing the hair and stuff like that. So yeah, green glowing eyes, so that looks a little bit more unnatural. Maybe again there's some sort of like genetic modification going on here. I would include like pointed teeth, but that would look a little bit messy is the problem that I was having. That was the problem that I was having in the base sketch, because I did try to do it in the base sketch, but it was just looking a little too messy. So I just decided to have it just be a normal set of teeth. But you can infer that I intended to do pointed teeth. Yeah. In terms of those elements, there's maybe not a huge amount that I'm gonna be tinkering around with in terms of like the blues and stuff like this. I'm gonna have to maybe have a think about the background. Maybe I should just have like what would be interesting? Would it be interesting to have I might have to have a look at some color palettes here and maybe have a think about this, because I obviously want to have some blue in there. I want it to be a bluey color palette, but maybe it'd be interesting to have you like blue and pink, something like that. Maybe something which is a little bit different. There's one which is catching my eye here, which might work. Yeah, I might have a think about that. Who knows? Who knows? I'll obviously need to consider this a little bit more as I'm going, but it might be a good idea to have somewhat of an idea of it now. Yeah, okay. So some of that color palette stuff is obviously going to... That's not really going to come into play until I'm doing the excuse me, the gradient maps at the very end. So there's one or two which I've glanced, which I think maybe will work. Sort of bluey pink ones. Yeah, that one maybe stands out a bit more. Okay, so I might try and do something with some purple. With some purple and blue. Because we don't want it to look too similar to the last one. The last one I did was a very blue color palette, so I want to try and avoid just doing another blue color palette. Especially given that the next one I'm going to be doing is going to have a blue color palette as well, so... I'm not going to get much in the way of reprieve from blue for a little while, so I need to try and think if I'm going to spruce this up. And make it more interesting looking. So, right, okay, there's two here which may be super fancy a little bit. We'll see about that as I'm going. So, yeah, right. There's going to be more white in the design. I'm going to incorporate it maybe through these little parts here. They'll be white. I'm not sure if I'm going to make the gloves and boots white, though. Well, think about that. Yeah, I want to incorporate more white throughout the design. I suppose we'll see how I do as I'm going. But largely, there's not going to be a huge amount of colours here. I don't want it to be too overcomplicated with the colours. I want to largely keep it to be black and white as normal with the character. I don't want to incorporate too many little tones and little like greys and stuff. I don't want to do that, so I just want to try and keep it as black and white. And then those little white accents, or blue accents, I mean to say. So yeah. Anyways, I will do this, and then I'll be back to do the painted shading, which I suppose there'll be more to talk about there. I might have more of a background done by that point. I might not do a background like that for a while. Who knows? I don't know what I'm doing currently with the background. We'll see. Anyways, I'll carry on. Okay, so I didn't go too crazy with the background. I chose to keep the background reasonably simple. I just sort of did a gradient and then went in and did a little bit by hand. Threw in a little bit of a streak by hand. I think that looks interesting enough. It's not too crazy. It's not too over the top. I added those nice little bits of glow to the eyes and the blue. I think the blue glow looks a little nicer. The green glow is a little subtle. I had to do a few different passes at the skin because I feel like it wasn't looking quite right. It was coming out like too vivid in certain parts, and I just wasn't quite happy with it. But I think I'm happy with this version of things. And then I decided, yeah, I just think that maybe the hair is unnaturally white. Maybe that's part of the whatever weird story thing we've come up with here, of where there's with all this genetic manipulation or what have you that's going on here. Maybe that's just a part of things. Maybe that just sort of is an element of it. I feel like there's enough white in the design. It was something which I was tinkering around with a few different times. I decided to add some to the gloves and boots because I felt like it needed something. I felt like it needed just that little bit more. So I think adding it to the gloves and boots is nice. Obviously, currently this looks like this doesn't quite look right. This looks a bit symbiote currently with the smoke, but obviously I'll go through with a paintbrush and I'll sort of smooth that out. Maybe I'll add a little bit of a streak going up it, maybe like a little blue streak or something going up it, so that it looks a little bit more smoky. But that'll obviously erase down just so that it has a little bit more of a natural look to it. But yeah, so far all the design stuff has kind of been covered. I think there's a nice dispersal of white throughout the design. I feel like it was something which I was sort of, again, struggling with a little bit, but I'm happy with that reasonably now. I don't think I'm going to really do any tinkering with the fur or anything like that. I'm happy with the hair being the way that it is. So yeah, there's no other like crazy weird design elements that I need to add or anything like that. Now it is just the painted shading. Now there's going to be a lot of shininess going on here, so much so that I might have to do my little lens flares that I did last time. I might not. I have a color palette that I have in mind, so I actually need to look at it again because I took a break there for a few minutes and I don't really remember what I was doing. It was this one. So our darkest color is going to be blue and our lightest color is going to be a pinky color, which is sort of the opposite of what I've been going for recently. So let's try that. Let's try it. Who knows, it might work for us. So yeah, our darkest color is going to be the blue and then our lightest color is going to be the pinky color. So I suppose that means that it makes sense then that our blue is at this side, because this is going to be where the dark is. This is going to be where the darker parts are. Is along this side, and then the purpley bit is there, so maybe then we can reason out that there's some pink hitting the front of her. And then I'll have to do like I'll do a blue rim light, something like that, a light blue rim light, just so that sort of still has the idea of it there. Yeah, okay, that might look interesting. So that'll be something anyways, I suppose. I don't think I'm going to be doing really any more with the background. I think I'm content to leave the background as it is. There's obviously these little seams in the sort of streaks, but that's natural. That looks alright, I think. I don't think we need to stress too much about that. I'm happy to leave those as they are. Yeah, I don't think there's really much else I have to go over. I think I'm just happy to get moving here, to get back to it. And get through this painted shading, because really I don't think this should take too long. I mean, we've not got an enormous list of colors here to work with, so really this shouldn't take too long. It should be kind of reasonably quick to get through the painted shading. So yeah, anyways, I will do this and then I will be back to do the detailed shading and the light line. I had to really kind of move myself through it there because I was trying to remember what I was saying as I was saying it, which is a bad place to be, but you know, it happens sometimes. Anyways, I'll move on. Painted shading time. Okay, that is our painted shading done. So those glows are coming out a little bit more, especially the ones on the eyes. Those are a little bit more visible now than they were before. So as I mentioned before, I added a little bit of a sheen to things, and I feel like that helps emphasize the sort of musculature of the legs and stuff like that. So it sort of brings out those sort of shapes that were pre-existing, but need to have a little bit of emphasis every now and then. And obviously, I mean, it also technically re-injects a little bit more white into the design, I suppose, in that sense. But yeah, so one of the things which I was doing whenever I was tinkering around with the smoke was that I added a little bit of a sort of like a bristled brush of blue, so it looks a little bit like a kind of a false, maybe digital smoke is the sort of look that gives, this sort of blue that works up through it. And so yeah, that sort of like works along the line that kind of just emphasizes the sort of the direction of the smoke sort of swirling. And then I only sort of smoked out the edge of it. That's all I really did, because I felt like the going through the whole thing would sort of eliminate a lot of the stuff that we'd already done to it. So I feel like I just needed to maybe just smoke up the tail a little bit so that it just sort of trickles down, is the sort of look that we've got here. But yeah, I think this is coming out all right. It's an it's a bit of an odd sort of, some odd choices that I've made here, but I think they're working. I think. Yeah, we're already 4 hours in, so I mean, I do kind of need to get a bit of a move on, I suppose. In the interest of getting things done, I suppose, because yeah, there's been a lot of talking in this one. But yeah, I think I'll just get moving. I'll do this detailed shading and then the light line, and then I'll do all their last little bits and then wrap up. So yeah, and I should mention that yes, I'm going to be doing a blue light line on this, because that's I think important to note, is that I'm going to be doing a light blue light line. So yeah, I will do this, and then we'll be back for the end. That'll be basically us done. So yeah, I'll do this detailed shading, the light line, and then we'll be done pretty much. So yeah, anyways, I'll move on. Alright, that's our detailed shading and our light line done, so we've obviously set in a very blue and pink color palette. So now I'm going to do my gradient maps. So we'll see what these look like. I'm assuming that this is going to start looking a bit strange once I do this. So let's see. Right, so our darkest color we're going to want to be a blue, which is, I mean, just going to put it up here for the sake of measuring it for now. Right, let's just see how this works whenever we do something like that. Alright, weird. Okay. Right, soft light. This is at 100%. Right. So it's funny how that purple is just 100% gone. Okay, this needs to be darker, definitely. I wonder what happened. You know, I'll just leave it as it is. That's not awful. Luminosity being lower, color burn being higher. What does color burn look like once below everything? Our contrast is a little bit better. I think. Right, okay. I think we're just going to have to live with it as it stands. We wanted an intense color palette and we got one. So at this point, I'm just going to have to roll with it. So I don't think I'm going to want my texture to be particularly intense here. I'm probably going to want to keep it kind of low in terms of its intensity. So right, the texture, let's turn this onto overlay. Let's bring it up to 10%. Because it's particularly aggressive on that background, I would say. We don't really want it to affect stuff too much, we just want it to lighten things up a tiny bit. Bring a little bit of our lighter tones back out. Add a little bit of randomness, I suppose, is technically what we're doing, because it's obviously a watercolor texture, so it adds a little bit of imperfection to things. But yeah, it's, as you can see, it's pretty intense on that background, so I'll leave it low because otherwise it will be a little too much. So yeah, there were some wild ideas in this one. I'm not sure how well they came out, but it is certainly something that I did. So I suppose, yeah, if you want to see more of these weirder things, you can maybe suggest some. I'm not doing the outro just yet, I'm just saying that. But yeah, I suppose if that's something that you're interested in seeing more, you can leave comments and tell me about that. But yeah. Yeah, there's some wild ideas, I would say, in this. Wild ideas. I'm alright with it. It's definitely strange, though. It is definitely strange. But I suppose, again, it was always going to be that way. It was always going to be that way, wasn't it? But yeah, we're 4.5 hours in, and I feel like these have all been very long recently, so I would like to move things along. Would like to move things along just so that I can get out of here. So right, I'll do my outro and I'll leave you. I'm happy with this one. It's there's some strange stuff to it, but I think I am happy with it. But yeah, anyways, I'll do this outro and then I'll leave you. So, if you like the video, do whatever it is that you'd normally do, whether that be liking it or not. I really rattled that off pretty fast. Whether that be liking it or not. I would of course prefer if you liked it, but I can't make it. So, I just politely suggest it. If you liked the video, consider it. Same deal. If you want to subscribe, do it. If not, that's fine. You watched to this point, so that's more than most. So, yeah. So, yeah, if you choose to subscribe, that'd make me happy, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You know where the subscribe button is. You've presumably watched a YouTube video before, so, it's there. Smash it. Do whatever it is that you would. Do what you will. And if you would like to suggest something for me to draw in the future, like I mentioned a mere few moments ago, you could leave a comment, politely worded, or not at all. I'd of course prefer if, you did it, but politely. If you're going to do it politely, or just don't do it at all. And yeah, if you choose to watch the next video, I'll see you next time. So with all that said, there's us. I'll say goodbye and I'll leave you. So.